Okay, so this is going to be for the wash and charcoal, but I'm going to do one video where I'm doing the wash, and I'm going to do one video where I'm doing the charcoal or colored pencil. So I'm going to start out with wash. I drew it in pencil first, and I am just looking for areas of light and dark. So this is a still life, and it's just some fruit and a cup. I'm moving so I have my ink washes over here, and I'm just looking for areas of light and dark. Remember, I want to start out light. I don't want to go too dark. That may be even a little too dark to start with because I'm making a very light area. But on this one, I will be able to correct with the charcoal or colored pencil. I didn't want to make the video too long because it's going to take me a long time to put in the wash and to put in the charcoal. So I did the drawing part just first, so that wouldn't be on video as well. So again, I'm just kind of blocking in areas of dark and light. And then I'll refine it later. I'm trying not to go too dark. And this is just ink and water. I made a couple of washes before I started. Okay, and I'm going to take a look. It's going to take me a while to put in this wash, but I'm going to take a look at the grapes over here, which they have mixed areas, but they have some areas that are pretty dark. And I'm going to try to block those, and that's not dark enough. That may be a little too dark. I just put some ink on my brush and then dipped it into the water. Remember, I don't want to go too dark because I am not going to be able to fix it. In this case, I probably will be when I do the overlay of the charcoal and the colored pencils. But still, even though I know I have that opportunity to correct it, I don't want to make it too dark. So I'm just kind of moving around from grape to grape, looking for the areas that are darkest. And just trying to block those in. So this is a very see that bled, I maybe should have I should have waited for that area to dry if I didn't want it to bleed. I'm just looking for the darkest areas and putting in a dark there, and then I'm going to adjust. So again, this is a little bit harder than pencil. You're going to have to practice with this. And it's hard to practice because you can't really erase. So once you make mistakes, you can't fix them. Okay, so that's my starting point. It needs more work, but I'm going to let that dry for a minute. And I'm going to move over here to the onion and start putting in some areas of dark. Remember, this works in layers. Like some people will focus on like one area and like get it perfect, but I'm kind of moving around the image and looking for areas of light and dark. I find that helps me blend later because um, if I'll be able to see the image as a whole instead of focusing on one little thing, but everyone does it differently. So it's kind of like going from blurry to focused. I'm just blocking in areas of light and dark again. And I want to get something in on the table and the background as well while I'm working so I can see what value I'm working with. So for the table, I'm going to try to go light just for a starting point. And there's some areas of cast shadow that are darker. That's why I'm making the table light. And I'm just blocking this in, hoping that I'm not going to get my paper too wet. Again, this is watercolor paper. I'm going to make the background a little bit darker than the table, but let me just get this in first. This dries pretty quickly, maybe like 1, 2, 3 minutes. I mean, for a late, like to get kind of dry. I probably let it dry for at least a half an hour before I put in the layer on the outside. But I'm going a little bit darker on the background. And I'm actually like, just so it's easier for me, I'm going to turn it around because I'm just doing a wash on the background. Just get a basic value in the background. So right now I'm kind of just filling in areas. Maybe blocking in areas of value is what I would call it. Which is time consuming. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to come back and try to refine and also put in more areas of value down here. I'm just going to fill in those little areas that I have like white spots in. I'm noticing them now. And it's already warping the paper. Okay. So now I'm going to look at the cast shadows on the table. And they may be darker, but I'm just putting in kind of a medium dark right now. And there's another one right here. These will be refined as well. I'm just getting kind of blocking them in. And I'm putting some right here under this grape, which I haven't put anything on yet. All right, that still needs a little bit of work. And then over here, there's a cast shadow from the onion, kind of in the background. And what am I seeing that I feel like well, I'll see if I want to adjust that later. So still needs a lot of work. I'm gonna go inside this, and there's a cast shadow from the grape right here. And right here. Alrighty, so I'm looking at these apples and I'm gonna go light. I'm just testing this out over here. Remember, you can choose, like when you combine wash with something, you can choose how much you want to be wash, how much you want to be line, how much, you want to be charcoal, or you can also combine all three. I'm going to put some light over here. It needs more work, but I'm just trying to block in areas. Okay, and then this apple, I feel like I need to lower it, but let me just come over here and work over here. I feel like this line needs to be lower. I'm gonna figure that out. I don't know if you're gonna see me figure that out on the video though, so I'm gonna leave that blank for right now. So I'm gonna go back into the grapes with kind of a medium because there's no part of the grapes that's like really white except for the highlight. And I will make that later with the charcoal pencil. But as a whole, they're pretty dark. That they need a lot of work, by the way. That's just a starting point. And then I'm going to look at this grape though, because I didn't really do it. So the darker part is down here. And I'm going to come in here with this dark right here. Okay, so this still needs a lot of work. The onion is dark up here, and it has like kind of a highlight right here that I'm kind of leaving white. And dark up here. I mean, like if I wanted to leave it like this and really enhance with chalk, I could, but I'm gonna try to do a little bit more wash. There's no right or wrong way to do it. I'm looking at it for a second, trying to figure out what I need to change. I'm touching these to see if they're dry, and I'm making a little bit more of a dark over here, and I'm going to go back into the grapes. I just hope they're not too wet. So these are, I guess, purple grapes, so they're very dark. So it takes you a while to get values correct. At first, it's kind of like you're just seeing, well, okay, this is a darker area and this is a lighter area. And once you have that in, then you're kind of looking at, well, how much darker is it? Do I need to make a part of it darker? Did I do the whole thing too dark? Kind of stuff like that. And you're going to be adjusting and adjusting and adjusting. And adjusting. So, I mean, the things that I'm showing you, I'm trying to do them as fast as I can, but they literally could take me a couple of hours to do them if I really wanted to be a perfectionist. And I don't want that white in between. So I'm trying to darken this. Okay. So they still need more work because since I made that darker, I'm gonna have to make the other part of it darker. And there's a grape right here. I kind of didn't put that one in before. Trying to go a little bit lighter with this one and then maybe darken it. But I need to let that dry. Then I'm going to go back into my dark. And I'm just darkening in certain areas. And just looking for areas that are dark. It's very time consuming, as you can tell. And I'm trying to demonstrate to you like in the as much as I can without taking up like 10, 20, 30 hours of time, you know? And you're looking like when I'm doing this, I'm looking for the same things that I was looking at in a value or looking for in a value drawing, meaning that I'm looking for highlight, shadow, cast shadow, core of shadow, reflected light. I'm just making the lights on the grapes a little bit darker, right? Because they're dark. So the areas that are light are not going to be that light, if that makes sense. Okay. That they need work. They need a lot of work, but I'm gonna leave that for a second. Um, I'm gonna come into. I'm working on the things that are darker first. So it's like the grapes and the onions are the darker parts of the drawing. The rest of it is kind of light, but I want them to stand out before I start messing with the light areas. So this is really, really dark here, partially because it has cast shadows of the objects that are around it. And this dark travels over here, and that's going to make the light of the apple pop out more. And that needs, I mean, blending, but I'm going to leave that for a second. I really like to work around the drawing. There's a dark in here. This edge is darker. Maybe that went a little too dark right there. And I want to blend it into the lighter area. I'm getting a little tiny piece of paper towel. And it's also darker on this edge, but I'm trying not to go too dark. You can blot with a paper towel or your finger. Okay, so now I'm looking at it and I'm actually getting my pencil because I feel like I need to make a change. And I know I should have kind of looked at that before, but I was not really. So I want this apple, actually I want it to be more over here. So sometimes you notice stuff when you're well into the drawing. And that's, it can be bad or good, but I wish I had noticed it before. But when you're paying attention to so many things, sometimes you kind of miss something and then you have to change it. So I'm going to put this in as a dark right here. There we go. That looks much better. And then I need to kind of get that line, under control, but let me see what I did now. So that means that this should also be lower. So that's going to have to be corrected with charcoal to make it lighter. Going back into this shadow on the wall with the dark, and that needs to be fixed as well. And this apple is casting a shadow over here on this apple, but it's not very dark because the apples are light in color. And I need to make more adjustments. So let me go into the cast shadows for a second on the table. And I'm just making them darker. And then I'm going to go right here. And I'm going to bring that down. I should have not made it as dark, but okay. There, that's starting to look a little bit better, but you see how much time it takes to make something look better. It takes a lot of time and a lot of adjusting. I'm just seeing how far I want to go with the wash. Remember, I'm going to do this one in wash and charcoal and a different one for wash and line, but you can go back in with a wash over it after you put in the line or the charcoal. I need to, I'm darkening the top of the onion. It's not dark enough. And then I'm going here and darkening the shadow. I'm going to leave that side as it is. And I need to darken this area. And I'm looking at this and I'm just seeing what needs to be darkened. I kind of focused on the darker things, I guess, because they have more wash on them. The lighter things, I don't want to get them too dark, I guess. If that makes sense. And then here, oops, that was too dark. So I'm just blotting it with the paper towel. And a little bit of a darker value right under here. A little bit of a darker value right here in the apple. I'm getting the paper towel to blot that because I got too much water on there. And this shadow is going to be all the way up here. But I mean, for each of these drawings, you should probably leave about a couple hours of time, at least. I'm just looking at it, seeing if I need, like, where I want to stop or if I want to do more. I'm going to darken this shadow right here. So this shadow is really dark right here. So I put some more dark into the wash. And I'm darkening this area and this area. So like this apple, I'm probably going to have it come down like right here. So I'm just making that line and that'll help me remind. I'm going to fix that with the chalk. I'm going to go right under here. So again, this takes up a lot of time. This is just my first layer. There's a cast shadow right here. And I'm just, so on the onion, I'm just seeing how long this video is. I'm going to do maybe a little bit more and then I'll stop. So on the onion, there's kind of like this is the lines of the onion skin, or these are the lines of the onion skin. And I'm going to blot with the paper towel because I want them to blend. I don't want them to be too obvious. And then they're on the other side as well. The values for the onion are not totally correct. They need a little bit of reworking. Like over here, I'm going to go darker on this edge. So see how you have to keep reworking your values to get it to look correct. It's not going to just happen on the first try, right? And then there's a dark spot right here. I'm using the paper towel to blot. I'm going to go a lot darker right here. And that kind of merged into the shadow, which I didn't mean for it to do, but I'll try to differentiate that later with the chalk. So the darker I go right here, the more the apples are going to stand out. So you want to, I mean, you really don't want to put a lot of dark wash on the light objects because you're not going to be able to fix it. I know I already said that, but just repeating. And then if you have something dark around a light object, it's going to help it stand out much more and make it pop out. I'm going to just go a little darker on this edge. And flat. And then the grapes are going to need quite a bit of work on them with the chalk. But I think I'm going to stop here and leave it. What did I get right there? A piece of dark that I can't erase. I'm going to stop here. Of course, I say that, and then I see something else that needs fixing, and then do the rest in chalk, charcoal, or colored pencil. And the grapes are especially going to need a lot of work. All right. That'll be a different video. Okay. So now this one, I'm going to add charcoal, maybe some colored pencil and charcoal pencils. So I'm going to start out with and this paper is bent. The water bent it, even though it's a piece of watercolor paper. So I'm going to start out with a black charcoal pencil. And I'm going to define and correct. Okay, so I'm going to come over here. Nope. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. So I have an eraser. You can actually erase on top of the wash. Sorry, I'm not talking that much. I'm just trying to focus on what I'm figuring out where I need to enhance this. Again, when you're doing something like this, you don't want to drown it in charcoal, right? Because you don't want to have none of the wash showing, because what would be the point of doing the wash? So I want to leave some of the wash showing, is what I'm trying to say. And have like a really nice, dialogue, if that's what you could call it, between the charcoal, the colored pencil, and the wash, making it a very dynamic drawing. So like on the grapes, there's actually highlights, which I'm going to put in with the white charcoal pencil. Sorry, I'm just kind of figuring out what I need to do. Actually, this grape is lighter on the outside. So they're all different. You want to be able to pick out stuff like that. Unless you're doing something that's stylized, which I'll probably talk about later, but you want to be able to pick out the differences in each shape, the differences in light, the differences in shading. So, I mean, they do not look like grapes yet, but they're starting to look a little bit more like grapes. So I'm really trying to correct some of the things that I couldn't control with just the ink wash. But I'm trying to leave the ink wash showing. Doesn't look totally great, but it's getting better, right? I don't know if I like this one with the white outline, but I'm just going to keep going and see how the drawing kind of emerges from the changes that I'm making. So I want to try to emphasize highlights where I wasn't able to get that kind of differentiation with the wash. And the white one looks pretty weird, so I'm going to come in and darken it. It could stay white on the top, but I'm leaving it dark on the bottom. I'm just changing the shape a little bit. And I mean, that could use a little bit more work, but I'm going to it's not only black and white, you can also use gray. So I'm going to come in here with the gray and kind of blend some of the areas where I was kind of transitioning from dark gray to light gray, but it just got kind of like, it just looks like big chunks of dark gray and light gray. Okay. So now I'm staying with the gray and I'm looking at the cast shadows on this. So the light wash that I put on there was not dark enough. So I'm just darkening it with some gray chalk. And remember, you could also do this with colored pencil. I just chose chalk. The colored pencil is it's kind of hard to get something over a wash. So I picked the chalk so it comes on more easily. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my black charcoal pencil and I'm going to, so I'm just looking at some of the shadows up here. So this is not a grape. This is a shadow that the grape is casting. And this is also a shadow. I'm just bringing some dark into it. But again, I want to leave some of the wash showing, right? I'm going to come down here, define this line. And the cast shadow is much darker than I have it. And this got lighter as it dried from where I was originally putting the wash onto it. So I'm putting this on. Okay, so now, I'm going to outline this outer edge and the table. And these two are kind of like different values, but they kind of look the same now. Okay, so I need to, I'm just thinking to myself, what do I need to do? Okay, so I need to look at this grape. And I'm darkening it on the bottom and trying to have it work into the wash. And then again, remember I thought that this apple, I wanted to bring it down. So I'm just putting some white in there to correct it. Okay, so I'm defining the edge of the cast shadow with the charcoal pencil. Then I got some chalk right there. I'm just taking a look at this apple. And this is the shadow that's being cast by this apple on the second apple. And I'm just putting a light gray in there. And then I didn't put anything kind of right here. So I'm going to put a little bit of gray right here. And try to blend it into the paper. If I want this to be more blended, I can add a white. Then I'm going to look at the onion for a second. What do I need to do to the onion? I'm going to come in with the black chalk or the black charcoal pencil. Is that too much? I'm talking to myself and I'm trying to think. I'm telling you what I would be thinking when I was drawing. So are those lines on the onion too defined is basically what I'm thinking and trying to figure out. So like I'm figuring that out while I'm drawing. I'm just putting, there's like two pieces hanging out right there. So I was just making the space in between the pieces a little bit darker. Um, I didn't think it was going to look that great, but I'm kind of happy with it. So I want to leave the white. I took out the white. Now I'm putting it back in. And I'm going to put some in here. So there's kind of like a highlight going across. I'm rubbing it a little bit. And maybe a little gray right down here so it just doesn't look like white connecting to a dark gray. And then I want to take a look. That doesn't look perfect, but you can kind of see the process. I want to look at the background. And I want the background to be darker than the table. And that's not really dark enough. I'm taking a look at my grays and I'm trying to find something a bit darker. That's kind of all I have, unless I want to add black to it. But I want this background to be darker than the table. Okay. I could have used colored pencil as well, and I want to leave some of the wash showing because I feel like I'm drowning it out a bit too much. Okay. I am going to get the black charcoal pencil and just define this line right here. And I'm going to come in with, I'm going to come into this apple for a second. I actually really like the wash work on that, even though it's not a lot. I probably should just leave it alone. I don't want to mess it up. I was going to add some shading, but I think even though it's simple, I'm going to leave it because I think it looks nice. But I'm going to look a little bit more at the grapes. And I have a colored pencil now. And I'm just trying to define detailed areas. So you're not supposed to mix colored pencil with charcoal, but I'm trying to just put it on the wash areas. Where I just want to do a little bit more blending. And I don't want my hand, like I should be watching where I put my hand because there's chalk on here. Yeah, I already got some on the apple. So that's just something to pay attention to. I can also erase that later. Okay. So I'm going to go to a a colored pencil that's a little bit of a darker gray. It looks the same. Let me see. I'm just trying to darken up some of these areas that I couldn't get with the wash, but I don't want to use a black because it's going to be way too dark. And I'm going to stop and kind of take a look at it. I'm just kind of looking for, well, what do I need to adjust? I'm going to come in here. I didn't do this grape and bring this gray up a little bit. I could do some subtle shading on the apple. I just don't want to mess it up. I already feel like I'm messing it up. So I'm trying to keep it really light. This, I want to put it kind of a dark right here. But I could have just left it with the wash, and not messed with it. So like once you start messing with it, you can make it a lot worse. So do it at your own discretion. And I think I don't want to mess it up anymore. So I'm going to stop here.